Oh, goodness gracious. I got into textiles like so many other people in our region. It was the #1 industry. It was a changing industry, but I would still dare say it was the #1 industry in upstate South Carolina, and needless to say, much of the South. So coming out of college, because actually when we graduated in '82, it was a tough year on the economy, but textile companies were still, some of them were still hiring. So voila. Again, so many other regional kids. I worked for Alice Manufacturing during the summers. Phenomenal jobs, so much fun, working outside the mills, inside the mills, and a lot of the mills' properties. And needless to say, working in that environment was phenomenal through high school and college. I loved it. Getting out of college and starting to look for a job, I went to work for Milliken & Company, and it was a polyester facility. Worked there for several years, and lo and behold, I ended up back at Alice, somewhat back to my roots. Alice was a typical mill or series of mills in a mill town. Part of the irony, which that town of Easley, South Carolina, at one time had 7 mills, and now it has 0. Things have changed. There's arguments that NAFTA's when it started to change, and it's the trade, there's so many trade deals changed. I would say it was in the mid to early 90s. But with that being said, a lot of companies were poised to do well during those changes. A lot of them had really good years as things changed going into the late 90s. So many of the vertical mills in the sheeting business, and we go back through the brands, the Springs, the Dan Rivers, the Pillitexes, which is the old Billcrest Cannon, J.P. Stevens, all those, West Point Stevens, which was a combination of West Point Pepperell and J.P. Stevens. As those companies transitioned overseas, which they did, looking back on it rather rapidly, it was good for some domestic manufacturing, but the writing was somewhat on the wall. As you see it go, though you're in the middle of it, you don't realize it until wham, the industry's changed and moved. They're family owned predominantly. They want to support the community. They want to support the people. They want to be in it. They don't want to give up the ghost. That's the primary reason. From a distance, people would say it's not the industry you need to be in. A lot of these families, and I kind of go back to families, a lot of the families have a lot of money. And that money, a lot of it was acquired wealth through generations in the textile industry. A lot of them said, let's just leave it. But some of them have said, no, let's hang in there with it. Redline has been a blessing for someone like me simply because you watch the industry change and you watched it go away. But then you see a Redline come in with an effort to bring it back. And again, I'm focusing on woven sheeting. And I laugh about this. I think this is really cute. If you look at the supply chain, and I work with the supply chain, people in the supply chain are pulling for Redline cotton. They want Redline cotton to succeed, partially because Redline is new to the industry. There's so many old paradigms. As I laugh constantly just being a beat up old textile guy, Redline is not a part of the beat up old textile scenario. Redline is new. People want to associate with Redline and they want Redline to succeed.